Hello, welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. Just a disclaimer, anything said in the course of this podcast is purely for educational. Hello and welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. Just a disclaimer, anything said in the course of this podcast is purely for educational and entertainment purposes. No securities discussed in this are recommendatory in any manner. To gain financial services, head over to our small case or bed desk to access our portfolios.
Yes.
Welcome guys.
Yeah. I'm Hardik.
I'm Yash.
And I'm Ayush.
Alright, so let's get right into it. Before that, actually, before coming to today's topic, I'll explain how we came to this. Basically, I was looking at last year's air passenger travel data.
Yeah.
And in last year, December, 4,35,000 domestic passengers traveled in one day.
Just one day.
Yeah, one day. So that is a high number because like before that, the highest record ever, like before pandemic also.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID also, it was like 4,20,000
In a single day.
traveling. Yeah. So basically, the tourism and travel that was muted during the pandemic is back up again, and that will have a direct impact on coming to today's topic, the hotel industry. People are traveling, they need a place to stay, and yeah, that's why we are looking at the hotel industry and who is likely to win the
What
hotel
kind of
wars.
players are we looking at? If there's a budget for people to travel in planes, there's a certain segment, right? I think it will be in the upper segment, but in the lower part of those.
Yeah, so there's like premium, which is upscale, then there's a midway between affordable luxury, then there's the mid-scale, and then there's like the cheap ones.
So where does the stock that we like fall?
So the stock we like falls between mid-scale and upscale, and the stock that we are very ambiguously talking about is lemon tree hotels.
Yeah, it's a lemon with a tree, and it's just a hotel.
Yes, so we're cutting that out of the podcast.
So basically, just to give some context, the occupancy rates, which I should tell you what it is.
Yeah, so an occupancy rate is basically the number of rooms that are occupied at a single point divided by the number of available rooms in a hotel.
So let's say there are 100 rooms in the hotel with the occupancy of 70%.
So then that means 70 rooms were occupied at a given point of time out of the 100 rooms.
And 30 were just empty, earning no revenue for the company.
Yeah, but obvious. So basically, all India average occupancy has been around 60%, and right before like COVID hit, it was like around 66%. It peaked out at the time.
Yeah.
So after that, it directly dropped down to like 30%, 35%.
Almost.
So that's like almost hitting bottom.
Exactly. The entire industry was hit pretty badly.
Because nobody was traveling in fear of health risk.
And therefore, no one was staying at hotels.
Yeah,
exactly. Everyone is staying at home. It's work.
I think the only reason hotels were functioning was I think they were using the
some are used as hospitals.
Yeah, that like COVID quarantine rooms.
Quarantine centers from airport or
So
something.
near the airports, those were that's why the 30% occupancy rate was even there.
Oh, acha.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Because I think people just didn't want to go to any place that could communicate the virus to them.
Absolutely. But that's changing now, I think.
Exactly. So with the travel data,
hot chocolate down. So back to the stock. Now, since we are going to uncover how Lemon Tree works and why we think it's a good company, let's talk about how the stock is performing. So I think it listed in April 2018 at like a price of 61 rupees. And in 5 years since then, it has only made a return of 28%. So you would have basically made more in an FD.
So it's less than risk-free rate.
Less than risk-free rate. So that's not very impressive considering it listed before COVID and yet didn't make that much of an impact.
And the peak that hotels make.
Exactly.
so like we can obviously go into why it didn't rise too much before, because Lemon Tree's exponential growth has been like the company's, I don't know if you call it new, but fairly recent. It started in 2004, like when they put up their first
the company is older than the new tech players like Oyo or Tribo.
Right. And even and much younger than, let's say, the Tajes and the Marriotts.
Exactly. So the luxury segment, that is
So it's somewhere in its teenage, whereas some are toddlers and some are senior citizens.
Exactly. So it's new, and basically the surprising thing is they started with one hotel, and now they are up to like 85 plus hotel with a capacity of I think 8,400 plus rooms.
Yeah.
The thing about Lemon Tree, why they're special is they operate in the middle segment, mid scale. Like so, The basically hotel industry is segmented into luxury, like prime luxury, then upscale, then mid-scale, and then economy. So these are like the 4 broader sections of it. So Taj, Hyatt, and all these.
They come with the luxury.
Yeah, they operate in the luxury. They are kind of getting into the upscale market also a little bit, but not that successfully.
It's for more like foreigners or premium customers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, revenue is a lot dependent on that. But Lemon Tree has established a very strong dominance in the upscale, mid-scale, and like higher economy area. So
Which is basically if you have to pay around 3,000 to 5,000 for a room, that's where Lemon Tree is killing it.
exactly, yeah. So like 5,000 to I would say 7,000 value.
So I think business travel, family travel.
Yeah. So Lemon Tree is really killing it in that space.
Exactly.
The more utilitarian segment.
Right.
It's all about the value for money proposition
absolutely.
with Lemon Tree. So yeah, that's why they are doing so well. And I think the hotel industry kind of remained stagnant from 2016, after, like just after the stock was listed,
Yeah.
to till COVID, and then COVID everything went to hell basically.
So I think during COVID, we were talking about occupancy rates earlier.
Yeah.
It went from what 66% average to around
30%.
35%, which is almost half.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted to travel, nobody wanted to get the virus.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. But
Nobody-
the good thing now is they're rising up very quickly. Now they're already, I think FY22 they were back up to 55%.
Which is a great feat in
It's
itself.
a great thing for the overall hotel industry.
And speaking of, since we're already talking about Lemon Tree,
Yeah.
because of COVID, I think their stock fell, like lost 3/4 of its value.
Yeah.
But since the
That's
COVID
nice.
low, it's grown by 4 times.
Wow.
Exactly.
Which is great. So even though that 28% number looks not so attractive, the growth from the lows has been massive.
So like timing the stock is almost as important as picking the stock.
Yeah. Tidbits, personal finance with Yash.
Yeah, so we obviously have an industry-wide positive outlook, but we still think that Lemon Tree will come out, at the top.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's discuss why.
I think it's not a sour stock anymore.
It's not, yeah. Lemon puns.
Squeezing success.
I think they have over 8,400 rooms, as you mentioned, over 85 hotels.
Yeah.
And in the mid-price change, it is the largest, but is also third in overall hotels, so any other chain.
So it basically just has market leadership,
Yeah, so around 17% market share is there.
which is great.
Yeah.
And the unique thing is, it's a premium brand, but it's still value for money. You don't feel like you're wasting money in such hotels.
Yeah.
It's been there for a long time before these tech disruptors like Oyo or Tribo, all of these came around.
Exactly, and with like the domestic travel restarting, the kind of people, the middle income section which is traveling, it's very appealing to that section of the population.
And since we're on the topic of just the industry in general, so the projections that the market is giving it
Mhm.
is that the demand to stay in a hotel room is going to grow at what 9 to 10% CAGR
Yeah.
over the next few years.
Okay.
But the problem is that there isn't enough supply yet to mask that demand.
So what are the supply numbers?
So I think the supply is going to grow at half that rate at around 5% CAGR in the same period. That's where we chose Lemon Tree as one of the primary reasons,
Yeah.
because their supply takeover is much faster than the industry standards. So
Yeah.
let's say some numbers on that.
So to give some context, let's look at like pre-COVID numbers, basically from 2018 to 2020, 22.
Yeah.
So all the hotel chains are adding rooms, and basically that is the main revenue driver for them.
Yeah.
Definitely there is occupancy rates, and there is ARR, which is average rate per room.
Yeah. Which is pretty self-explanatory.
So how much you pay for one night in a room?
Yeah, on average, how much people have paid for each room. So we can see like the market conditions were not that good. So ARR and occupancy are reducing, but the room count is increasing, and that is the main revenue driver.
It's during the last 5 years.
Exactly. This is for all the other hotel chains.
Okay.
For Lemon Tree, it's growth across all 3 factors.
Okay.
So the occupancy is also increasing. The ARRs are also increasing because they are Lemon Tree's travel is kind of upwards. So they are
Yeah.
economy to mid-scale. They are increasing mid-scale capacity, and then they are increasing upscale capacity even more.
And in
So
fact,
there's-
it's the reverse with the competitors that we see. Because
Exactly.
players like IHCL or Chalet, which is Taj and Marriott respectively, they are going from being dominant players in the luxury segment, so high average room rates there itself around 10,000, 12,000
Yeah.
rupees to stay. And now they are downsizing to capture the market that Lemon Tree is already dominating.
So I think this is despite them trying to launch cheaper hotels like Courtyard by Marriott,
Right.
or I think there's one by JW.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The same thing.
Yeah.
Whatever. So basically, rooms increase drives revenue, and if you want to give the specifics of how much capacity basically is Lemon Tree adding?
Yeah, so I think as we mentioned already, Lemon Tree has around 8,400 rooms, and
That's
in
a
the
lot.
next, that's a lot in itself. But in the next 2 years, I think until FY25, they plan on adding 2,500 more rooms,
Yeah.
and most of that is going into this particular chain called Aurica, which is a
Exactly.
fairly new one in the fleet for Lemon Tree, but that's going to be a key driver because not only are they pandering a little bit to the upscale market, so it'll be more than the 5,000, but bit lower than the 10,000 range.
For context, Aurica is the one near the airport.
Airport.
Mumbai
And that's,
airport.
that's
Yeah.
actually one of the reasons why it does well. And that's why Aurica will continue to do well because they're placing the hotels in such a way that it's within reach to a airport.
Exactly.
So it's the perfect price segment targeting through location.
Perfect price segment, perfect location for the hotel. They've really nailed it there.
Perfect. So yeah, so they're basically Aurica has like 200 rooms right now. They're adding in what 800 more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you can expect the revenues to
Really
drive a lot.
skyrocket.
Yeah.
But as a aside, like how much do you think performance of a hotel depends on the location and its management? Like is location a much bigger factor than management sometimes?
I'm sure you would rather forego the fact that your room service doesn't come on time, but be closer to where you want to be
Yeah, because
and pay that value for money.
yeah, you can leave much earlier.
That's also a thing, right? Where the location is important, there is a high density of hotels. So,
So there's
like
ample
in that area,
options
yeah,
also.
you have to stand out with better service itself.
I mean, so one begets the other, regardless of
Yeah.
which one you're looking for.
Exactly, kind of. Yeah, so like the first factor was increasing capacity, basically, more rooms, more money. Then the product mix, kind of what Lemon Tree offers in overall is changing. So we have talked about this already, but yeah, all the other chains, they're coming down the value chain pyramid, and Lemon Tree is rising up the pyramid basically. And what that does is, so Lemon Tree's current average ARR is like around 4,000 to 5,500 K range. Yeah. And the main capacity which it is adding in the upscale section, the ARRs there are like 10,000 on average. So its ARR is being pushed upward because like its expansion is focused in the upscale region. So that is driving the ARRs. So like as it has been historically, again we are seeing expansion is there. The ARRs are also being driven.
So there's pricing growth as well in the segment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A fun fact about Lemon Tree, all Lemon Tree hotels adopt a stray dog and they keep it as a mascot for that area.
That's so
and
nice.
these are given like specific duties in the hotels, and it's the largest corporate adopter of stray dogs in India.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually very interesting.
Damn, I want to invest in it now just for that reason.
Well, the podcast done. Goodbye.
Educational
Lemon
commentary.
Tree saves dogs, guys.
Yeah.
What's all
Is there
selling point.
more reason you need? matlab?
Yeah.
So next we talked about the expansion, the ARRs, and then Yash
The
wanted to
margins.
tell us about the occupancy.
Occupancy. So I think occupancy was much higher in the third quarter of FY23.
Yeah.
It was around 77%.
That's the highest that it's hit in FY23.
Yeah, and it's better than the all India average of 60%. So as a Lemon Tree hotel, you'll always be having a higher occupancy rate than any other average hotel.
Now, another fun fact to why it might be that high.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if this is official,
Okay.
but Lemon Tree does an hourly hotel system as well. So where you
Okay.
can book rooms for 3 hours or more.
So there's
at
a revolving
normal
door
rate.
always in the hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. So that occupancy rate is also conditional on the fact that people aren't just staying the night, people
Yeah.
are staying the day and leaving as well.
So it's just not 0 hours or 24 hours. You can get 3, 6, 9
Get
out of the
3, 6,
day.
9. And
Yeah.
they're actually doing it through this very recent tech hotel company called Brevi Stay.
Oh, so this means that they can increase this number even further.
Yeah, they can. That
Yeah.
There is room for that demand to skyrocket.
So because you're not 100 or 0% occupancy, your room can be occupied for 25%.
Yeah, there is that.
Huh.
That's a good thing, right? Like, good you mentioned that because Lemon Tree is
Questionable ethics.
one of the
We don't
like
know.
main hotel chains that have heavily digitized their entire
Right.
experience.
Yeah.
So like there is an app for Lemon Tree. You can order room service and everything from the app. So that does
That's
a
the
lot
need
of,
of the hour, I think. The
Absolutely.
standards going up.
truly it reduces overall cost, better management and everything. Yeah. So
Speaking of costs, I think they've done a few like these programs and initiatives to just overall reduce their costs. Right?
yeah.
So margins are, I think, going up in the shorter period because there are big more rooms and the rates are also better and revenue growth is higher. So profitability is improved because I think the EBITDA was around 16% in FY19, but in the latest year, in the 9 months of FY23, it's around 50%.
That's a skyrocket,
significant
yeah.
jump, yeah.
Exactly. So they have cut a lot of costs. They during COVID, so like many hotel chains fired a lot of employees basically,
Yeah.
and Lemon Tree had to go through a similar experience. But the staff that remained, they cross-trained the staff because like the demand was not high anyway.
Yeah.
They cross-trained the staff across different sections. So like you can do multiple
roles.
So you can be the receptionist, you can be the.
So the employees are more versatile and more useful overall.
Exactly. So they are more.
And that means less hiring. Like they can
Yeah.
utilize that
Switch
limited
them.
staff.
Yeah.
Exactly, and digitalization plays a key role
Exactly.
here. Exactly. So
Robots are going to be all our bosses in some time, so it's
But
important.
that's going to be such a cold experience, like when you're greeted at the reception by a robot.
I mean, I don't think anyone will greet us. You just have to get to work like.
Damn, there is a Japanese hotel chain named I think Hisco or something like that, and it is a completely digitized and completely
Oh, really?
robotized.
So there's no
Not
human.
Is it
even
one of those
human,
pod systems?
robots like
Wow.
in the entire hotel.
So it's similar to Amazon Go, where you just go in, pick up the stuff, and walk out.
And like self checkout.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't have to talk to anyone, do anything.
But that's the part of the process, I think. Like that's the reason why the hotel industry even exists.
No, but I
The
don't
qualitative or
think
subjective aspect of how a hotel treats you.
It's just shouting at the receptionist.
No, that's the customer treating them like shit.
So like this reduces their staff cost as well as a percentage of revenue.
I think around 10 to 15% reduction has
Yeah, in the last
been,
1 year.
which is a lot.
Exactly. The cost reduction scene has been like crazy in Lemon Tree. Like they have reduced costs from like around 50% of the overall revenue to I don't know, like 16-18% of it.
I think in the last 12 to 18 months, companies globally have seen cost cutting and then firing of employees and then maybe taking austerity measures like Alphabet, Amazon. Everyone is, I think, trying to save money.
Yes.
So, a smaller companies, of course, bound to do that given the macro environment.
Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. Coming to the next big thing about Lemon Tree, which is important, is usually the hotel industry is very debt heavy, basically. That
You have to buy the whole property and building. And
exactly,
land.
it's asset building basically. But Lemon Tree has this asset light growth model. So they don't exactly buy, they lease from the owners. So they go to the owners of the hotel, take the property for management, and then they are either paid a fee or they have a specialized contract with the owner. And so they are expanding on the basis of this asset light model.
Yeah.
So that doesn't add on debt as much.
So, like the return on capital employed is much higher.
Way higher, exactly.
Because whenever you have to invest in asset, like it will be a factory or a machinery or a building for rent. So there's a lot of capital employed in the term of debt or equity, whatever you want.
Yeah. So for context as to what portion, let's say since we mentioned that there's going to be 2,500 rooms being added, around 3/4 of that is going to be this asset light model where they're just
75%.
managing hotels on behalf of the actual owners.
So they're just lease liabilities. There's no actual money that is
Right.
paid in terms of
So
down
then they're
payment
expecting
or-
like a major debt reduction on their balance sheet. So I think as of the third quarter, they saw 1% year-on-year decrease.
How much debt does the company have currently? Is it?
It's like
better?
around 1,500 or something like that.
So it's in line with the hotel industry.
It's not very exorbitant.
Nothing sketchy about its financial.
So it has a debt to equity of around 2.5.
Yeah. So nothing.
And the
sketchy.
industry average would be?
The industry average, I'm not sure about, but I think it's a bit higher than that.
The debt
Oh,
can
so
be.
they're lower than the industry.
I'm not sure. I'll have to check that.
The debt can be easily explained because if you look at the mix, it's like around 39% of the mix is from asset-light model.
Okay.
But like another 60% major chunk is also from owning the assets.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that they don't own the hotels, but like this is another way of growing. For
So
the
they're
company.
switching
Yeah.
more to this
I don't
asset
know.
light.
I like the balance sheet safety of this thing where the assets are not on your balance sheet. The decrease in value is just not effective.
Yeah.
I think this should take us through the valuation of the company. I think is it a fairly valued stock in terms of an educational buy?
So basically, while we valued the stock because we have talked a lot about the competitors
Of course.
in the region, but again because it operates in a different segment, so we valued it at 15% EV/EBITDA of our
15x.
15x our EV/EBITDA of our FY25 estimates.
So can you tell us what are the growth from 23 to 25 in the numbers look like?
Yeah, so I think across FY23 to 25, we have a revenue CAGR of 27% projected and a PAT CAGR of 36%.
So on leverage, the PAT is growing more than the revenue.
Just to be clear, these are all just projections.
Of course, they are
We
best
aren't
estimates for the
recommending
company.
anything.
Of course, but it's important to understand the numbers
Yeah,
to take a good view on the stock.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
We can explain our valuation process.
Yeah. So like currently, I think on FY25 expectations, the stock trades around 12x EV/EBITDA, but we value at 15x. So the
Exactly.
target
That premium
price
is because of the reasons that we've spoken about.
so the target price comes to around 110, and there's a 40% upside over current levels because 12 to 15.
That's a neat gain compared to the
Exactly.
28% that is made in the past 5
And
years.
like all the cost cutting we talked about, so we expect a fair growth in the EBITDA margins because like they have been growing at like a CAGR of around 7%, and we expect them to grow at like 24% in the coming 2 years.
So that's a significant increase, almost thrice.
Exactly,
And then if you look at the competitors, I think they trade at around 13x. So it's a good premium given the benefits that of Lemon Tree we have seen.
over these guys.
Yeah, there's asset light model, there's the growth in upscale to mid-scale segment, and there's the higher occupancy rate also, which we said because of the partial day stays, I guess. Yeah. So like there's a lot of opportunity in this stock that we think because of these benefits, and you could just check out the nearest Lemon Tree to get a better look on the stock.
exactly, guys. Yeah. So how about next week, Yash?
I think next week, coming from Lemon Tree as a hotel industry, we could jump into some other industry. What do you think, Ayush?
So I think since lemons are yellow,
Yeah.
there's another.
Damn, I was thinking of that segue, but I like that is too bad of a segue to get into gold.
Lemons are
Learning
yellow.
from the master.
Of course.
So since lemons are yellow, there is also another
Yellow.
increasingly popular asset that has recently hit all-time.
Is that
highs.
mango?
Close, it's gold.
Oh, I think gold has almost doubled in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Increasingly,
And that's all
it
because
has been the asset.
It has been the asset for the Indian market.
But that's moving to safety and
Yeah,
there's a lot of
because
fear in the
everything
market.
else is going to shit, so might as
Yeah.
well buy into gold.
Yeah.
So we'll look into some gold stocks. It could be Titan, it could be Manappuram Finance, it could be Muthoot
There's
Finance.
Damn, I stopped teasing.
different different ends of the spectrum, from Titan who makes
Yeah.
jewelry and watches to Manappuram is finance.
Gold loans and
Yeah.
everything.
So
So
I think
we're
it's an
taking a-
interesting take on what the topic is going to be.
Let's go, Yash. Waiting for you.
And that's a wrap for this time, guys.